Okay, this video is power plays and networks, political factors that affect global interactions. So the subtopics are multi-governmental organizations and free trade zones and economic migration controls and rules, so MGOs. An MGO is an organization that operates across 3 or more different states, international or regional. They mostly focus on economic matters to increase trade and interactions despite some external protectionism. So this involves the World Bank, IMF, UN, NAFTA, and the EU. An intergovernmental organization, on the other hand, is at least 2 nations forming an entity for the purpose of working together in areas of interest. They can have legal status or illegal status. So basically that means they follow international law or they don't. And just basically an IG and the MGO essentially have the same goals and purpose, but MGO is 3 or more and IGO is 2 or more. Okay, now we're going to look at trading blocs. So a trading bloc is an arrangement among a group of nations to follow free trade between member countries, but to impose tariffs to other countries that may wish to trade with them. I don't know why it says another. Okay, so these are types of trading blocs and integration methods that exist. So there's common markets, which allow free movement of people and capital, free trade areas, which abolish tariffs and quotas on trade between themselves, but restrict non-member imports such as NAFTA. Economic unions, which are a group of nations that only allow free trade and movement of capital and people, but also they require common policies in agriculture, industrial and regional, and development, such as the EU. And then you have customs unions, which are closer forms of economic integration in which all members operate a common external tariff on imports from abroad. So basically it's this idea where, like, in each of these there's obviously different degrees of integration, but essentially you're either having like free flows between the countries in the agreement, or like you're imposing like protectionism against countries that are not in the agreement together. So it's like just a collective thing where you're like strengthening your own group by imposing like protectionism against others and then making it more free between yourselves. Okay, now we have export processing zones and free trade zones. So a free trade zone is a geographic area that is well connected and accessible, and they're transport hubs such as ports and airports. They're quota and tariff free for importation of raw materials and finished goods, areas with special regulation designed to encourage FDI. An export processing zone is a type of free trade zone that promotes industrial and commercial exports in developing countries. They are popular as TNCs, like as we saw in the last video, want cost-saving locations, quicker turnaround of ships and planes, and the spread of new liberal ideas in the 90s encouraged this idea of free trade zones by open economies, and they encourage FDI and non-traditional exports. Okay, now we can look at another type of free trade zone, which is a special economic zone. So this is an area with a special set of economic regulations and infrastructure planning. There's reduced restrictions on land, labor, wages, taxes, planning, and regulations. An example is the Shenzhen Economic Zone in the Guangdong province of China. It's the first and largest SEZ in the world, home to financial services, universities, tech giants. It's near Hong Kong, Shanghai, so it provides kind of trade links and economic growth there. It's produced a brain drain effect in which people leave the rural kind of peripheral areas to go to Shenzhen, and then that leaves like those areas with less expertise and skills in terms of workforce, and then Shenzhen is very much rich in that type of skill and labor, workforce, skill, and efficiency. And then there's also has been increased employment, standards of living, and innovation. Now we're going to look at, finally, economic migration. So the overall trends is that migration has become more global, differentiated with settlers, refugees, skilled labor, economic migrants, students, retirees, and arranged marriages, etc. increase, and it has also increased among young women. So it just has become much more diverse in terms of who can migrate. However, implications of that is that there's policymaker difficulties, provision for migrants. I don't even know what that means. Provision for migrants. Maybe it's like the facilities, like it places a strain upon, like accommodation and that type of thing for migrants. It can cause hostility, globalization. That's a good and a bad thing. Globalization, diversity of migrants can also make restrictions more difficult. Okay.